Hi guys, it's SimLicy here, so welcome to another speed build. So today I am building something a little bit different. I wanted to do a house on a lake. I was actually not planning on doing this build at all, but I was browsing on Pinterest and I saw this image of a really cool lake house, and I think it's a real place, but it was like on this island with a dock and it just looked cool, and I thought I would try to recreate it in The Sims. So that's basically all I did. I'll put an image up on screen so you guys can see what I was looking at, and I just found it inspiring basically. And you'll notice that I'm building with a sim on the lot so I can have it in the fall season, because the trees behind the, I guess I'm gonna call it a cabin, it's like an A-framed cabin, they had autumn colors, so I wanted to use a combination of deciduous trees so they would have the autumn colors in game. But I think I'm earlier in the fall season because they're not like any reds, it's just like a few yellows, and I noticed the trees weren't as colorful. But I liked it for this build, but I definitely need to check that before I do like a super autumn theme build. And yeah, I use them in combination with a few evergreens, but I think the evergreens that I chose are from vampires, so keep that in mind if you guys don't have the vampires pack. But I chose those trees because the greens aren't as rich and as cartoony looking. They're more like dull and kind of match the autumn colors a little bit more. I don't know if it makes that big of a difference, but it's something that I was kind of thinking about as I was adding the trees. They were just kind of a really important part of the build to me for some reason, but I liked them, and I think the landscaping ended up being really cool. For the most part, I just added like a lot of greenery with the trees and like some bushes and grass. I added a ton of rocks. I'm using the pond tool to create the water around the build, and when I've done this in the past, like previous builds on water, I've used the swimming pool tool, and having the pond tool now is actually really useful. And I'm surprised that I haven't done a like lake house build or like a water sort of house since we've got the pond tools, but I haven't. So I'm definitely going to have to maybe do like an underwater house using them or something. I'll see what I can come up with. But anyways, with the pond tool, it makes it look a lot more natural around the edges. I still added a ton of rocks around the edges just to kind of, I don't know, make it feel a little bit more secluded. And I added some rocks in certain places to give it a rocky look because I wanted it to, I don't know, have rocks basically, because the inspiration image had rocks. And having like rocks only on some of it just felt like it didn't all flow together in some way. So I just decided to put rocks around the entire edge of the lot. And it might be a bit much, but I don't know, I like the way it looked. And so I just went with it. I also end up adding a path on the back of the build, which I think is technically the front of the build, but I was making this side over here with the dock the quote-unquote front of the build because the lighting's better over here, but the back of the build is where I create like a little pathway leading to the cabin, so your Sims don't actually have to swim here, and there's no functioning boat on the lot. And I went to place a boat that came with Island Living, but I guess you can't place them on ponds for some reason, but I thought that would be cool if they could actually like tool around in the water on a boat. But I did place some live edit objects and like debug boats just for like decoration, and I added several of them because I think the Sims that would live here or maybe vacation here, if you want to place it in Granite Falls, really like boats, and so they like fishing and those sorts of things. And I used a lot of decorations from Outdoor Retreat, by the way, and when I was building this I was kind of thinking that maybe I should have built it in Granite Falls, and I just didn't think of that world originally. I just thought of any 64 by 64 lot, and I thought of this one on the island of Windenburg just because it's so secluded and the surrounding areas are really naturey. But as I was building it, I was thinking maybe I should have built it in Granite Falls. But I guess I just kind of forget about those worlds sometimes just because they're hidden behind like an extra tab because they're just vacation worlds. But I do think this build would be a great vacation home rather than like an all-the-time house, but I definitely could see it as an all-the-time house too. So I don't know, I guess it just kind of depends on your Sims and your particular like gameplay that you want to do with them. But anyways, here before I finish the exterior, I wanted to move on to the interior to make sure I actually had room to fit a house in this build. I don't build a lot of A-frame like structures, so it was kind of challenging for me, and the interior was especially challenging, but I think it works. It definitely has a more like modern feel, and I really enjoyed like placing the furniture. I wish I could have fit a staircase in here, but it would have just took up way too much space, and I would rather have more room for activities and decorations and stuff rather than, you know, taking up so much room for a staircase. So a ladder works. I definitely don't think any like toddlers or anything are going to be in this build, just like a single sim or a couple or something. I definitely imagined a couple, but a single sim could probably enjoy this space just fine too. There ends up being a downstairs bathroom and an upstairs bathroom, so I thought that was pretty nice. I probably could have put the stairs maybe in like a little pop-out piece if I would have used the room for the downstairs bathroom, but I thought it was pretty important to have a downstairs bathroom. That way your Sims didn't have to climb upstairs or, you know, go upstairs or climb up a ladder to use the bathroom every time. I thought that would get kind of annoying, especially if they're outside like fishing or gardening or something, and then they have to go climb upstairs to use the bathroom. So I was pretty happy about that. I also really like how the fireplace is in this little like nook behind the living area, like it's not in the center. Usually I put a fireplace like in the center of a dining room or the center of a living room and kind of like orient the furniture around that and kind of make it like the main focus of the space. But for this build, it was just off to the side, and I actually really like it. I thought it looked kind of cute over here. And the fireplace, if you're wondering, came from the Snowy Escape expansion pack, and so I thought it was actually a really nice style for the build. And then the kitchen counters that I'm using came from the Cool Kitchen pack. I really like how modern they look, but still kind of rustic, so they go with that sort of like cabin feel. And then for the appliances, I used Dream Home Decorator, and then I think Base Game, and I used them in black, which I really liked the combination. I've been very interested in doing high contrast builds at the moment. I'm working on a build for my CC channel, and I was going for like high contrast when decorating the interior, and it was a lot of fun. And in that build I used a lot of blacks as well, not as much brown as this build, but it was a lot of fun. I also really liked using the outdoor retreat couches and lamps in here. I thought it was kind of like a nice like contrast to some of the really modern furniture that I was using in here, so I thought that was pretty fun. But over here is going to be the downstairs bathroom. Something that I really wanted to do here over by the sink was add some like side tables, but I couldn't find any that were tall and narrow enough to really fit in this space. But I was going to try to do something a little bit different. I could have used like a side table, like maybe a 2-tile wide side table, and merged it into the counter. I've done something like this before, but I think it stops the sinks from working, so I decided not to, and I just went with, you know, 2 counters and the sink off to the side. But I wanted to have the sink in the middle for some reason. I guess just because of the mirror I wanted to use, but I actually ended up liking the combination of mirror with the like towel wall hanging that I put next to it. I thought they looked really cool next to each other, and I don't think I've ever done that before, at least with that specific combination, but I really liked it. But moving on to the upstairs, this is going to be the bedroom, so it's more of like a loft bedroom because you can see down to the first floor, which is something I was really excited to include because I feel like that is like a must in a A-frame sort of build. So I thought that was pretty cool, and basically I'm just trying to find decorations that I thought looked nice in here. Again, the bed came from Outdoor Retreat, so it has that more like woodland rustic look with the wooden bed frame. It definitely, you could like see the rings and like the logs basically where it was made from a tree, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I think I used the same lamps that I used down in the living room. And then over here I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. What I end up doing is placing a chair in the corner, and then I hang up some of the hiking gear that came from Snowy Escape, and then I put the laundry basket over here, and then I put a plant in the laundry basket's place, but I end up moving the plant to the mirror's place because when I was decorating the bathroom, I realized that the mirrors were right next to each other. And I know I mention this all the time, but when things are the exact same and I can see them from the same angle, it always just bothers me when I'm doing my decorating. So I try to avoid it and try to fix it when I can. So I just moved the mirror to a different place and then moved the plant, and I think that worked a lot better. And then here I'm just finding some decorations to put on the bathroom counter. But I love this bathroom. I love how the bathtub is right up against the windows, so the Sims have kind of a view, but it's kind of private because there's the trees back there, and I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. Moving on to the exterior though, here at the front of the build, I placed a couple of lounge chairs. I used them in this Base Game white swatch, and I really liked how high contrasting it was, and that was something that I took from the inspiration image because they had white lounge chairs in that house too. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Here at the very back of the build, I place a dining table with a couple of plants, and over here is where I place a staircase and put that pathway that leads to the build too, so your Sims can walk like I was talking about. So hopefully that all works. I definitely need to play test a few things on this build because some of the plants or rocks, I don't think any of them will block anything because they are all live edit objects, but every once in a while there's a live edit object, plant or rock, or some sort of object that does have like a footprint and your Sims notice them and they can't walk through them. But I think all of the ones that I chose, your Sims should be able to navigate around, but I definitely want to test that, and I want to test the path too because it's very narrow. So we'll see. Hopefully everything works, but if anything's different and you guys download the build and you notice any changes, that's because something wasn't working, but hopefully I was able to fix it. But yeah, here I'm just adding more bushes and trees, trying to make the build feel very nestled and secluded. And really, I'm trying to not overthink my landscaping. I'm trying to quickly place things. If they look weird, then I'll change it, but I'm mostly just trying to place them so they feel organic and natural, like very unmanicured. And so placing them quickly is my best strategy for doing this and trying to not overthink it basically. But over here on the side, I noticed in the inspiration image that there was like this little rocky area. It was like a rocky circle, and so I didn't want to just place like a rock circle, and so I wanted to make the place useful. So I put a fire pit with a few seats around it, and I used the logs that came from Outdoor Retreat just to kind of continue with that more like cabin-y feel. And then I also placed some planter boxes out here so your Sims can do some gardening and skill building and those sorts of things. And yeah, I really like the way this exterior like turned out. I wish we had a bigger lot so I could have even like a bigger lake that this house was on. Like I really wanted it to feel like it was out in the middle of nowhere on a lake with like nothing for like a long time. Like you could see the trees in the distance, but it's mostly just like whoever lives here alone in the wilderness and with the water. I don't know. I thought that was a nice idea. Here I'm just adding rocks, and I was going to push the lake even further to the edge because like I said, I wanted it to be bigger, but it just started to look a little bit weird because when you get close to the edge, it just has this really steep drop off, and I wanted it to have more of like a sloping edge. And I mean, even though I end up covering it up with rocks anyway, so I guess it's not too important. But anyways, yeah, I just kind of continue adding rocks and some greenery and a few trees and things, just trying to make it feel natural and organic, like I was saying, just like the plants have freely grown here. And I was trying to look at the surrounding plants as well, so I chose a few that actually came with Get Together, so to kind of match the environment a little bit better. Here I'm adding that pathway like I was talking about. I was trying to make it look basically not so obvious because I did want the house to more or less be on an island, but I didn't want it to be too difficult to use. So I'm just hiding a little pathway at the back of the build. But like I said, I will play test it to make sure that it works just as it should. Hopefully it does, because I like the way it looks now and I don't want to change anything. But anyways, here I'm just adding some more plants and some trees and kind of adding the final few touches to the build. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys do enjoy the screenshots. So thank you so much for watching, and please leave any comments or suggestions you have, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!
For better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. Seven years now on this boat, and we all know where we belong. Just wait. For our home if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. Ooh, we are dreaming.